Haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm here on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny, and in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, we have Erin. We are here today to discuss the round one match for the A-League Men. That was us last Saturday versus Perth away at HBF. 2-2 draw in the end. Kaczarski, who was excellent, scored first for Perth in the 16th. In the 20th, and we will talk about that high line, there was something chalked off by VAR. 26, Adam Taggart, then right in the end of stoppage time in the first half, Fiona Izzer, just a tidy finish. So we clutched one back in the, clawed one back in the, just before the break. 69th minute, fantastic goal. It really reminded me of how we played the season before last. Started with Josh to Roofs to Rami, wide to Tim. Tim whips in this huge curving ball to the far post for Carlo to tuck away. Full time 2-2. The first 25 minutes was shocking. I think we'll take it after being 2-0 down. But that high line. Danny, tell me about that first 25 minutes.
It looked scary, right? It looked like, oh my God, our season is done and dusted after 20 minutes, and it was only going to get worse. And it didn't, thankfully, but at that stage, it just looked like we were just a shambles. We just couldn't handle it. The ball was coming over the top. We weren't turning in time, and it wasn't for Oloamy. He saved at least one. It wasn't for the offside flag, would have been 3-0 down. It's suddenly, you just thought, I don't think anyone came into the season with a huge amount of expectation, but after that, it was something, look, this is it, season's over, and we've barely started. It got better than that, thankfully. We fixed it, or Chiefy fixed it, the team fixed it, and we got a lot better, but at first it was nasty. And I'd been along to see the game the week before against Central Coast Mariners, and we played this same high line, and the first 10 minutes again, they pulled that trap a couple of times Central Coast, and it was Josh who saved us a couple of times, and after that we fixed it, and they never got past us again, and we dominated that match and won 3-0. So I sort of wasn't too surprised, but certainly at that match when I first saw it, it was like, if we get a good side with fast forwards, they're going to make us look silly, and that's exactly what happened. Taggart's a very good striker, Kaczarski is a very good striker, and they just knew what they did, and they put it behind there, and we had three central defenders who aren't the fastest, any of them. Hadn't played in that back three before, and we just didn't get it together. And I think one of the biggest problems with that Highland is not so much that you let the goals in, it just looks really bad. I mean, if we'd have had a low block with 5 at the back and another 4 in front of them, and they still managed to get through and tap the ball in, we'd be disappointed. But it just makes you look stupid when there's just all this space and they're just putting the ball in space. It makes it look easy for them, and you got all that space. So it looked bad. But we fixed it, and listening to Chiefy wasn't so much to him. It wasn't so much the three defenders that were the problem. Although I think the first goal you can see that Kelly Heald goes towards the ball rather than staying out in Kaczarski, and that lets Kaczarski up for a free shot. It was more that we were letting the balls go in over the top, so it was a midfield thing. It wasn't. We weren't closing down their midfielders, and so we were giving them the space to just loop the ball over the top and let them turn around and run at it. Once we fixed that, then Perth didn't really get a sniff, and we were all over them, which we can talk about. But Chiefy seems fixed to this. It's going to happen again. We're going to have better teams than Perth play against us. I think we've got to accept that if you play that high-risk strategy, you're going to get caught out occasionally, and it's going to look bad. And I think we hold our nerve because we can see that it can work. How long we hold our nerve for, I guess it depends on the results that they go. But it's going to be tough to watch that. And if that happens again in the next match and someone, streaks ahead like that, it's going to be tough to keep being positive. So, it was a fun 20 minutes in a very bad way.
Yeah, I think a high line like that is probably very easy to figure out for an opposition coach. If you're looking at that, you're just like, there's a massive space there. And I think it didn't work as well because Josh wasn't playing high as well. He was still on his line. And so the gap between the defense and the goalkeeper was so massive that any ball in that area was basically a 1v1, and when you have the strikers they do, they're probably going to finish them most of the time. And yeah, as Danny was saying, our backline is not fast on the turn, and they're not overly fast running either, and so we're getting caught out quite easily, and against fast teams, it's probably going to become a problem if we start that way every single week. So it's not a bad strategy. I guess I don't have an issue with the highline. I just have an issue when it's done poorly, and we did it pretty poorly to start with. So I think, a bit needs to change, and I think maybe Hughes being a late scratching from the game may have had an impact on it a little bit. But yeah, I think Lucas Kelly Held is about as fast as a tree, so I feel like having him be your backtracking defender is probably going to lead to some problems. But I think, I'm glad they kind of sorted it out. And if it's the midfield that needed to sort it out, then I'm glad that they did that, because it was in for a long night if they continue doing that.
How long do we persist with that, though? I mean, obviously, we had the scary tactic last season where playing out from the back wasn't working, and the way in which we moved the ball wasn't working. And a lot of people, and I think us included, felt like Chiefy stuck with that for way too long when it clearly wasn't working with the squad that we had. How long do we persist with this if it's not working? I mean, whatever you do that has like a defensive risk, like playing out from the back, you're always going to cop a couple of goals that make you look stupid, right? Playing out from the back, you're going to get caught a couple of times. You're going to lose a couple of goals that way. And so, yeah, we're going to lose a couple of goals that way. But at which point, especially because I guess expectations are already very low, but it's like, well, at which point do we make a change if that continues to be too much of a problem?
If you listen to Chiefy, this is it. This is the way we play. He's gone very Ange Postecoglou on that. This is the way I play. This is the way the team's going to play. We're setting up, and he thinks we will create more goals than we let in, I guess, if we play the back line properly. Again, he may be overestimating the players a bit. Again, playing out the back is fine if you've got great players who never make a mistake and never miss a pass. That's not the A-League. Similarly with the high line, if the defence work in a perfect unit, it'll probably work every time. But again, these are A-League players. They're not going to work, in a perfect unit every time. So we are going to let goals in. My thinking is Chiefy will stick with this until it succeeds or he gets fired. I know it's been a bit harsh, and that one might come sooner. Obviously, one will come sooner than the other. So I don't think he can change it around. If he does, and it's again admission that it's not going to work, and after last season, I don't think he can survive that. I mean, what we got to say, after 20 minutes, it did work. It worked really well. We had 70% of possession. Perth didn't really have much of a sniff, and we created quite a few chances. But the downside to it is, okay, Perth are not probably the best side in the competition, and everyone's seen how we play now, so they'll be working out how to attack that. Kelly Heald, I don't think was ever expected to play. I'm not sure when Hughes pulled out injured. But Kelly Hill just getting off a plane, we're probably not ideal. Also, he hasn't been with the team for probably a month because he's been over in Chile with the under-20s, and then he's been over with the All Whites in Europe. So he probably hasn't practiced this very much. I read somewhere that Chiefy started bringing this in 5 to 6 weeks ago. So Kelly Hill, poor guy, he gets such scapegoating. I actually quite like him. I think he's quite a decent player, and I think he gets put into difficult positions. But again, he's put in this position, playing this back three in this really very difficult technical system, and when it doesn't go right, everyone blames him. And he probably was to fault for the first goal, so that's it. But I've given him a bit of slack. If we get Hughes back, they practice more with it. Maybe those comedy goals that we concede will become fewer and far between, and we create enough up the other end to put against it. I don't think this is going to work against the really good sides or the really pacey strikers. But it might be good enough to get as a result against your Perth, against your Central Coast, against the lower half teams who realistically that's probably where we're sitting. But a couple of bad results or a couple of really bad performances, there'll be a huge amount of pressure on Chiefy to change it. Listen to him; he's not going to change it. In which case, there'll be a huge amount of pressure to change it.
So we had 5 debuts for the A-League Men team. Schwan Loke was already somebody who had played in the Australia Cup, and he's an academy product. But we had our 5 new signings, Eze, James, Carlo and Rami. How did we feel about their performances? Obviously, Eze Carlo with goals, Rami with the sort of pre-assist out to Payne to swoop in that goal. James out-muscling even players like Taggart. I have to say that I was pretty happy with that. Erin, what did you think?
Yeah, I liked how they performed. Obviously, Eze had that really nice tidy finish, just managing to kind of get into that angle and chip the ball over the keeper right on half time. Really brought the momentum back to us and super important. So I was quite happy with that. And I think Remy as well, I feel like he had the ball a lot and he was just getting fouled every time he touched it. It's kind of, reminiscent of, I guess, the kind of Piscopo, Rolly Bonavacia kind of era where every time they got the ball, they'd just get kind of chopped. And there's not much they can do because every time they get anything, someone's just kind of hacking at them. So, yeah, it's kind of, I think, a sign of a pretty dangerous player if people are just can't get the ball and they just get your legs instead. Um, and then yeah, Amiento with his goal, which was quite nice as well. Yeah, James in the back, he's kind of a bit non-nonsense. I think I just one of those defenders who a couple passes around the back and then this isn't working. I'm going to just send it up top, big man up top to Eze, and see what we can make from it. If they're going to start to press, he's just going to get rid of the ball, and I think that's probably good for us. I think we lost it quite a few times trying to play it out the back and have something happen. I'd rather us try to just put it in the mixer a little bit and compete for it. And I think, it's still first game of the season, but the players are showing a bit of heart and, a bit of, grit to them as well. I think we almost had 3 fist fights in that game, which is fantastic. It's just kind of showing that the players want this and are playing for the shirt and for the club and doing everything they can to win the game, which is good sign.
I don't think we can really be too disappointed by any of the debuts in there. As you say, James is just so strong that, he may not have the pace, but he's got the experience and no one's going to muscle their way past him. You saw that with Taggart, and then the one later in the game where the Nasmo, I think he basically gave him a piggyback all the way to the line and didn't matter. And that's when one of the fistfights nearly started, although James didn't seem to care. He was quite happy, just like, I'll stop you getting the ball, that's all good. Armiento, I didn't think actually did all that much apart from start 2 fistfights. He had maybe 2 shots, one in the first half, and then obviously the goal. Look, if he scores a goal every match, then that's fine. He doesn't have to do anything else. But I thought he could have got more involved in the attacking play. He certainly wasn't defending in any way, but then that doesn't seem to be the job of wing-backs in this system, because neither Tim Payne nor him ever really got back at all to help defend. But more Najarine, again, I thought he was very busy. As you say, he got kicked a lot by the Perth defence midfield. They kicked us quite a lot, but I think that's the nature of the way we were playing. Basically, we seem to be getting the ball just by hustle and press in the high midfield and just behind the 2 there, which is why I think we were playing Conchi up there, who's not really an attacking player, but he is good at putting a foot in and getting stuck in and being annoying. And that's how we won the ball most of the time and then try to keep it. And once we'd win the ball, it was then little one touches around the corner, flicks, which if you do those quickly, draws a foul a lot of the time. And the ref didn't give enough of them, but often that was because the ball had gone on and we've been playing advantage. And so Najarine got kicked a lot, as did Conchi. But I think that's just the nature of where the type of position they were playing, which wasn't sort of a strict sort of 10 spraying passes around. It was getting stuck in, secondary press, and then just flicking a ball out wide to Payne or Armiento or back to Rufa or Nagasawa, who would then try and put a ball up front. I thought was excellent, real proper number 9 centre forward performance. Really up there by himself. He didn't really have anyone playing off him, as I say, the 2 10s that are really sort of forward midfielders trying to win the ball. kept on running, kept on battling with Caltech, who we know is a tough man to battle against. Some of those battles were legal, some weren't, on both sides. But he kept running, and that goal was such a great centre forward goal. You could see the run, and he saw that Nagasawa was a long way back. Nagasawa was pretty much in our half. Spun off Caltech, made the run, dummied, made a second run, and then first two touches, and then chipped it over the keeper from it. It was just quality centre forward play. If he keeps going like that, then he'll score a number of goals and he'll be quite a favourite. And he kept running all the way through the match as well, constantly. He was looking for the ball, looking for the run, drawing defenders away. Armiento's goal was because he'd made Caltech pull him down into the area. That ball was really coming on to Eze's head. He fought with it so hard that Caltech had to basically pull him down. Probably could have been a penalty, but who knows. And that lets Armiento come in at the back post and score the goal. So Eze had an excellent, I think, debut. If he can keep that up, that's great. He might need to learn to play the referees a bit better because he went down probably more often than not more often than he should, but more often than he's going to get any free kicks from A-League referees. I'm assuming he'll learn what's going to be given and what isn't. But, if he keeps going like that, he'll get some goals. If we can keep that kind of possession we had and get that ball up to him, he'll do all right.
Yeah, I clean forgot. Actually, I thought that was a headed goal. It was lofted so beautifully. I remembered it as a header, but very nice lofted ball. So let's talk about the men again next week. That is going to be this Sunday at Sky Stadium, October 26th, kick-off 3 p.m. New Zealand time. Brisbane scraped together a 1-0 win over MacArthur. I only watched the highlights. I can't say much about it. It was a penalty. I feel like, I'm kind of glad we're getting another a team that finished fairly low last season as well. They do have a few quick players, I think, but we'll see what happens. Any predictions? Erin, you want to start?
I didn't really watch much of the Raw game, so I don't quite know what went on there. All I know is that the coach's son got a red card, I'm pretty sure, so so that's fun. But yeah, I think if we kind of played like we did from the 30th minute onwards, and we've sorted out our back line, then I think that there should be some good points for us, and at home as well, which is what we need, I think. So I think we'll get a win.
I watched the Raw game. In fact, I watched all the games. It was a great weekend of football. A-League started. No other life, just sit and watch 7 or 8 games of football. I thought Raw were decent. They were probably deserved winners against MacArthur, so they were probably better than they have been certainly last season. But they didn't stand out. I don't think actually across the weekend anybody particularly stood out. Maybe Adelaide, or probably the best team over the weekend. So bearing in mind we're playing at home, I would expect us to get a result, but I would also expect us to let at least a goal in. So I think probably something like a 2-1. If Hughes is back, I think we'll do a lot better. But I think we'll win it. Not convincingly, hearts will be in our mouths, but it'll be entertaining, and I think we'll come out on.
Yeah, I think entertaining is where it's going to be this season, for better or for worse. And I dread to think how many emergency department visits there are going to be across Knicks fans, both in New Zealand and in the rest of the world. Make sure you know what your local area emergency code is. That's 111 in New Zealand and 000 in Australia. So just be ready to go if the person next to you has a heart attack. I hope we do get a win. It would be good. I really hate to think how many people at midnight on Saturday, after watching 15, 20, 25 minutes, and it's after midnight, and they just switch the TV off, and it's like, this is what that season's going to be, and I'm not interested anymore. So I really, really hope that we do pick up again, because it was not a great start for that time of the night, especially just people going to bed. We did want to mention that we were sad to hear that Fever FM has discontinued its podcast. That's a pity, but everyone involved in our podcast also understands how much work goes on. It's not just showing up and turning your computer on. There's so much behind it. So thank you so much to everybody who was involved. That was definitely a frequent podcast for me. I'm not too sure what's happening with the Black and Yellow podcast. At one point, I believe one of the boys had been harassed at work, and they said that they wouldn't be able to continue. There have been rumors that they will be able to continue. I hope so, because the more people we have chatting about the Knicks, the better. I'd like to think that it just gives people a little something during the week to think about, to talk about, and as I've always said, we're happy to hear what you think. Any further comments for the pod today?
Yep. I hope that we've had some set piece practice over the break. Those were some horrific free kicks and corners that we saw hitting straight into the wall, extremely low. Our target man now is a beast, and we have, I think, Mandrika James as well, who's huge. Lucas Kelly-Howard, who's huge. And we were just hitting the most awful set pieces I've seen in a while. So hopefully that's a focus. We actually make them useful.
I'm just really glad the season started. It's been far too long without football, so having football, even if it is comically defending or entertaining football, yeah, well, that's great. I'll watch any of it.
All right, let's go. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week to chat those games. Mā te wā.